Good evening. This is the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Shrinate and we're going to put the spotlight on Chanda Kochhar. The board has terminated her employment. Yes, the company which she nurtured as CEO has come to the decision that she violated the company's code of conduct after Justice Srikrishna panel indicted her for failing to discharge her fiduciary duty to recuse herself to avoid conflict of interest. The panel said that her approach to disclosure rendered the bank's processes ineffective. The bank has decided to revoke all her existing and future entitlements, clawback bonuses for the last 9 years. Now remember, Finance Minister Jaitley had called CBI's FIR against Chanda investigative adventurism. The officer who signed the CBI order was transferred the next day. But can the board wash its hands of the case? What about the regulator? What does this tell you about corporate governance standards in India? And is this going to open a Pandora's box for ICICI Bank? Let's take this across to an eminent panel right here. With me, Supriya Shrinate. Hemendra Hazari, banking expert, joins us. Balbir Singh, senior advocate. Anil Singhvi, chairman, ICANN Investment Advisors. Maithili Busnurmat, our consulting editor. Thank you very much, each one of you, for being with us. And Maithili, I will start with you. And I think Chanda Kochhar was one of the most celebrated names in not just Indian banking, but Indian businesses. She was the shining beacon. She signifying breaking and breaching those glass barriers. And this is a fall from grace when he would say she's responsible, and she's been held responsible on many counts for violating the code of conduct, for failing in a fiduciary responsibility, for not informing the board and all of that. But do you believe, and while the Justice Srikrishna panel holds her responsible solely, is that fair? Could she be solely held responsible this evening?
Well, I'm not really sure, Supriya, that actually the Justice Srikrishna Committee's conclusion is entirely correct, because remember, this was the same board which rushed to her defense in March last year, and in fact we had the chairman of the bank saying very emphatically that Chanda had made all the disclosures. And if you read the report, the press release by the bank today, the words are very carefully worded, which is why please allow me to quote over here. It says that the report has concluded that on account of ineffectively dealing with conflict of interest and due diligence or recusal requirements, Chanda Kochhar was in violation of bank's code of conduct. Now, what does the report mean by saying ineffectively dealing with conflict of interest? Did she or did she not declare her conflict of interest? The board really earlier said yes, and now the inquiry report says she ineffectively dealt with the conflict of interest. What does that mean? Why are they trying to split hairs? So I think we need to ask questions also of the board of the bank, also the Reserve Bank of India, because remember, the whistleblowers allegations first came in 2016. So I think now the board and the bank is desperately trying to distance itself from Chanda. So one really needs to get to the bottom of it and find out, did she or did she not disclose a conflict of interest? If she did, what did the board do? So I think a number of questions, and as you very rightly pointed out, it opens out a whole Pandora box, especially on the issue of corporate governance and the board of directors of a very eminent bank.
You hit the nail on its head, but I will go across to Anil Singhvi and then to Hemendra Hazari in a minute from now. Anil Singhvi, the board rushed to Chanda Kochhar's defense early on. Without a probe, they gave her a clean chit. I still remember M.K. Sharma doing that press conference and, saying so. And all of this was done when she was very much in command. And, it was almost as if they were awestruck by a star CEO. And they perhaps thought that she's going to scrape through. And now the board has done a complete U-turn. And the very same people are holding her responsible after this report. I mean, it does raise questions even on the board. I'm going to discuss Chanda Kochhar in just a while. But what about the board's own role? They rushed to give her a clean chit. And now that Sri Krishna's panel indicts her, all sorts of things are, all hell is breaking loose.
I think it's a bit of a joke, because if you look at March 2018, when the board said that and gave the clean chit to Chanda Kochhar, they said, in as many words, the board has noted that the bank has a well-structured and standardized credit approval process, and the multiple independent departments are involved in providing independent credit risk taking and doing the credit appraisal. And having this kind of an architecture, no individual employee, whatsoever may be his or her position, has the ability to influence the credit decision at the bank. Now, this is the statement made out by the bank in March 2018, just 9 months back, giving Chanda Kochhar a complete clean chit and saying that don't play into the hands of the people who are spreading these rumors. and saying that she was not even heading the chair of the risk committee which decided in favor of Videocon. Now today the same board comes back and says that now we have a report of Srikrishna, and we find that Srikrishna report holds her completely guilty, that she did not disclose her interest and she should have recused. Now what was the process then and what is the process today? And we are talking about the process which was followed or not followed in 2012. So we are not inventing the process today. The process was known to the board in 2018. And mind you, Mr. M.K. Sharma talked about this in March 2018, reiterated that to all investors in April 2018, that he conducted an independent inquiry into the entire process, whether Chanda Kochhar followed the process or not. And he said he was satisfied that entire process was followed.
Okay.
That was also supported by the Cyril Amarchand
Okay,
report.
Anil Singhvi. Yeah, Anil Singhvi, give me a minute. Yes, Cyril Amarchand Mangal report, Amaldas Mangal's report supported it. So did M.K. Sharma. But there is a viewing point, and Chanda Kochhar is guilty of violating code of conduct, failed to live up to fiduciary duty, rendered the bank's processes ineffective. Her separation is now to be treated as termination, unpaid benefits to be clawed back. Those are the big takeaways. But Hemendra Hazari, even as Chanda Kochhar did all of that, she did. What about the role of the board? The board had a whistleblower complaint since 2015, and you know, the board should have asked for a probe. The board let it lapse. This whistleblower complaint came all the way to Delhi, to the finance ministry, to the PMO, and all of that. No action was taken. But I think the buck on this has to stop. Of course, Chanda Kochhar has been held guilty and she's been indicted. But what about the board? Can the board go scot-free on this?
The board of ICICI Bank today stands thoroughly discredited. I think now one should investigate the statement and Mr. M.K. Sharma himself, because his statement, which he gave a clean chit to Chanda Kochhar, and now we have something which says that, you know, the complete opposite, which means that he has attempted to mislead the public. So I think one also now has to investigate Mr. M.K. Sharma and how he came to that conclusion, when the same process now has been looked at and been found that she has violated their own code of conduct. See, this just tells you the abysmal state of corporate governance in the private sector banks. You know, we all talk about government banks, but here the board leaps to her defense. They get even Mr. Vagul, an earlier chairman, to do his round in TV studios defending her without any really independent probe being done. So if this is what is happening in this bank, God knows what all is happening in the other private sector banks, because the board seems to only to want to defend the CEO and not the institution. This thoroughly puts the board in a very, very poor light, and therefore, in my opinion, all the board members who were there at that time and who are there currently should be immediately removed, and they should get fresh people from outside.
Okay, give me a minute there. I'll take this across to Balbir Singh. And Balbir Singh, the CBI says that she did not disclose the conflict of interest. Srikrishna's report says that now. M.K. Sharma said it was disclosed. Now, of course, the board is being seen in a... And I think Hemendra Hazari has hit the nail on its head. The board stands discredited because they gave her a clean chit. But before I move any further, what about systems and processes? There should be systems and processes that should be so robust that should not be allowed to breach. Why were systems and processes not in place so that this conflict of interest could go on? What happens to that?
See, I think first of all, we need to see that so far as the systems and processes of banks are concerned, they possibly can result into some kind of regulatory violations of RBI Act, and therefore consequential penalties, and these can be there. As far as the criminality is concerned, I think the process seems to be very simple, and there is certainly quite a strength in the investigation which has been done by CBI till now, and that comes from the fact that board has been shifting stand right from the beginning. First of all, CBI has come up with the theory of criminal implication after 10 months of investigation, because the first PE was done around 10 months back. Post that, the FIR has been registered. And now Srikrishna's report is making very clear that there are gaps in the stand taken by CBI over a period of time. Besides the conflict of interest issue and the corporate governance issue, I certainly see that the criminality arising out of the transaction which has been particularly roped in. Having said that, I think the larger issue I see is that since the investigation is right now open, CBI till the time the final charge sheet is filed is going to come with the final report. At that stage, the issue is whether this is the only transaction or CBI is going to extend the scope of other transactions, which include the processes which has been followed for extending the credit to a different set of people, and especially those credits which are resulting into NPA today for the bank. So I think we need to see going forward that what kind of investigation is being done in terms of extent of scope and the people who are involved in the process, whether they are further named in the final investigation report or not. But as appears today, there certainly looks like that the board is trying to hide something which should have been disclosed either from the regulators or from the investigating agencies.
Okay, give me a minute there, because I think you lead an important point on the CBI part of this. And Anil Singhvi, what all can this lead to? I mean, is there a class action lawsuit that we could perhaps be looking at, criminal quid pro quo, which will not just stop at Videocon, but maybe go on to other transactions as well? Because like I said in the beginning, this is going to open a Pandora's box.
I think there is all likelihood of a class action suit. Particularly, you should be mindful of the fact that ICICI shares are also traded and listed in United States, where these kind of lawsuits are very common. Because if you recollect, in April of 2018 and May of 2018, I think a lot of investors based out of US were very, very apprehensive of the board's conduct and flip-flop. And now it is coming out very, very clear that in March 2018, and if one holds the report of Srikrishna today to be true, that means the board was trying to hide something which they shouldn't have been hiding then. And they went around the town saying that everything was all right and all processes were followed. And the same board today turns around and says that no, processes were not followed. And instead of resignation, after 4 months of resignation and having taken the resignation, they're saying now it should be terminated, taken as a termination. I think this board, according to me, the common directors on the board who are there today and who were there in March 18, either they should resign or they should be sacked. In fact, the termination should be holding them also responsible for it. So the conduct of the board definitely today comes in a lot of question marks, and I will not be surprised if there are investors who are really going to go after the board of directors of ICICI, because they can't just escape their own responsibility on this subject. This is not a small thing. Whether Chanda is held guilty or not by CBI and other investigations are different. But why this flip-flop? Why was not an inquiry then conducted, which is the norm prescribed under, if you are listed in the US, that if there is a whistleblower, then audit committee chairman has to get an independent person to conduct an inquiry. Why was it not done in 2016? So I think the board has to answer many, many questions, and the audit committee chair, I'm told, is continuing to be the same person. Now, what is he doing? He said complete clean in March 18. And
no,
January 19, they are saying that not only a resignation, it should be taken as a termination and clawback of the bonuses. Now, I mean, what is your responsibility? Forget about the CEO guilty or otherwise. You have a responsibility of the oversight, and you failed in that oversight completely.
No, I agree with you there. And give me a minute. I'll get in Maithili Bhusturmat as well on this discussion. And Maithili, actually, let me get in Hemendra Hazaria, and I'll go to Maithili on a different question, which is about the RBI. And Hemendra Hazaria, I think what Anil Singhvi is saying is right. The chairman of the audit committee remains the same. The board has done a complete U-turn. And now the same board that was telling that Chanda Kochhar, has been given a clean sheet, needs her to be sacked. Bonuses need to be paid back in the last 9 years. Is there too much that rests with the board, and is she paying a price for perhaps a board that was also very lax? And there is no denying that she's been found guilty, she's been indicted. But what explains the fact that the audit committee chairman is the same, and how is the same woman who was held scot-free today so guilty that she's got to return all the money that she earned in the last 9 years via bonuses and things like that?
See, the way this board has behaved has not surprised me, because I have been closely examining and exposing all these new private sector bank boards, be it Yes Bank, Axis Bank, and even to a extent Kotak Mahindra Bank, that once the promoter or the CEO determines a certain course of action, all the directors just toe the line. Nobody seems to question. It seems their primary responsibility in all these banks is to always defend, to praise, to protect the CEO despite mounting evidence. They appear to have absolutely no responsibility to the other shareholders, to the stakeholders, to how the public will perceive them, how the regulators will perceive them. Their sole criteria of existence appears is to always defend, protect the CEO. And this is exactly what I have been pointing out in all these banks. So this is the real state of corporate governance, that independent directors have been an absolute failure. I mean, there are very few independent directors today who exert their independence, and if they do, they are removed not only from that company, but they will not get directorships in any other company. So this is the state of corporate governance, not just in ICICI Bank. It is there across the new private banks which trade at such high valuations, which trade at not even just high but very premium valuations. But nobody seems to be concerned. Only when something blows up in your face, as it has done today, do questions are asked about the board. I think this is a systemic wide problem today.
Give me a minute, because I think the spotlight and the blame also lies on the regulator. And Maithili, on that count, the RBI gave her a semi-clean chit of sorts 2 years back. The board kept changing its position. In fact, we've got a reaction coming in from Chanda Kochhar. This is an ET Now exclusive that we're bringing to you. Just give me a minute. Let me read out a reaction that she's given to us exclusively. And I think it's only fair that we quote her and get her side of the story. And she says, "I'm utterly disappointed, hurt and shocked by the decision. I have not been given a copy of the report. I reiterate that none of the credit decisions at the bank are unilateral. ICICI as an institution with established robust processes and systems which involve committee-based collective decision making, with several professionals of high caliber participating in the decision making. Hence, the organization design and structure obviate the possibility of conflict of interest. I have served ICICI for the last 34 years. With all my dedication and hard work, I have never shied away from taking tough decisions whenever required to be taken in the best interest of the organization. The decision from the bank has caused me immense hurt and pain. I have pursued my career as an independent professional with utmost honesty, dignity and integrity. I continue to have faith and belief in my conduct as a professional, and I'm certain the truth will ultimately prevail." That's Chanda Kochhar, and this is a first reaction that's coming from her. I want that flash on the bottom of my screens right now. Need these commercials to go out so that the flash of what Chanda Kochhar is telling us needs to get out. And Maithili, what do you make of this? The fact that she's very categorically said, this isn't my decision alone. This is a collective decision making. There is no scope, she says, for any conflict of interest, because such are the caliber of participation and decision making that happens. What would you say to this?
Well, absolutely. Decisions of this nature are always collective decisions, which is why, apart from the board, we also need to ask, what was the credit committee doing? Because one of the basic requirements whenever you sanction a loan of this order would be to take a declaration from all the top officials that there is no conflict of interest. So did that credit committee take it? Did Chanda declare her conflict of interest? And in that case, why is it that earlier the board said yes, she had, and now if you see the report of the committee, Justice Srikrishna committee, very clearly says that she ineffectively used her this thing. So they don't say she did not declare her conflict of interest. See, they are basically splitting hairs. So I think this is a desperate attempt by the bank, by the board of directors, which, mind you, also includes a government nominee, to kind of distance themselves from Chanda and treat her as a fall guy, when in fact it is a collective responsibility of the board of governors, of board of directors of the bank, and also of the credit committee, which is why the CBI was entirely right in they didn't name the other members of the credit committee. All it said is that we need to ask them also what were the systems, what are the procedures. So I think this is a desperate attempt of the bank to try and distance itself and allow her to take the entire flak all by herself, when all were responsible, maybe to a lesser or a larger degree.
No, Hemendra Hazari, I know you've been critical of Chanda Kochhar, but on this count, I think I will go with Maithili, because, I mean, in her statement that she's given to us or otherwise, she's very categorically stating that, you know, that none of the credit decisions of the bank was unilateral. What about the others? What about other people in the decision-making committee? She may have not disclosed, but everybody knew, you know, what about other people where the lens of the CBI has gone? The CBI is talking about decision-making by KV Kamath, Sanjoy Chatterjee, Zarinda Arwala, and all of those people. What about other decision makers outside and within the bank as well?
See, firstly, let me say that from the evidence that we knew even a year ago when it first surfaced in the media, the evidence was quite stark. So therefore, Chanda Kochhar's statement that she is just released today has absolutely no credibility. It should not be treated with any kind of credibility at all, because I think the evidence was very stark to even any average person that there was conflict of interest. Now, in this particular case, you see, she had to disclose to the board that there was a conflict of interest. Now, the question is, when she did not disclose to the board, is the board supposed to know? Unless that means, have they independently investigated all the directors, executive directors, whether their spouses or close family members have any business relationship with the the people who ICICI Bank is giving loans to? So if she had not disclosed, then at least you can say that the directors would have been aware that there is a conflict of interest. But obviously the whole thing was so structured that it should not have been disclosed. But this also tells you that, it seems that today we really don't know whether the existing senior management, whether their spouses, their close family members have such business relationships with the various large corporates. I think it is imperative that all of them now, and the board should investigate all of them to find, are there such conflicts of interest? Because the stand taken by Chanda was that whatever the relative is not a relative, there was no conflict of interest. So this is what I think should be done.
Okay. No, give me a minute. I think Maithili wants to come in before I go across to Anil Singhvi and Balbir Singh for closing comments. Maithili, you want to come in on that point?
Yeah, very quickly, just to kind of rebut what Hemendra said, we do not know for sure, did she or did she not disclose her conflict of interest. She says she did, the board earlier said it did, and now the Srikrishna committee doesn't say she did not. It says she ineffectively dealt with the conflict of interest. Now, what does ineffectively dealt mean? Does it mean, why doesn't the committee say squarely, did she disclose, did she not disclose? So we do not know. So when Hemendra says she did not disclose, we do not know for sure. So that is what investigation is all about. Did she or did she not? I think we need to know about that. And if she didn't, why didn't she? If she did, what did the board do?
No, absolutely, and I think that is where the confusion is. This ineffective bit that the board has, the release has added, adds to confusion, it adds to conjecturing, because it's her word against the word of the board, which once said that she did and now is saying she did not. So I think the focus has to be on what the board members were doing. This is the same composition, but I will go across to Balbir Singh. And Balbir, I think one of the things that I want to ask you is on committee of creditors. When the whole CBI lens was put on some of the most high-profile names still serving in Indian banking, we had none other than Arun Jaitley come in the defense and say this sort of adventurism is going to ruin India's banking system, is going to ruin that space. The question though is, I mean, as it is, CBI has such a tattered reputation. As it is, these institutions have such a tattered reputation. I'm presuming he was not out there to defend Chanda Kochhar, but what about the rest? I mean, is the government now dictating terms on how this goes on, and how do you see this kind of evolve?
See, I think first of all, we all would like to believe that our banking system is robust, and therefore a finance minister saying that there cannot be loose cannon in terms of CBI walking into anybody's house or office and say that, all right, we want to investigate. To that extent, I think is the general belief and faith we have in our banking system, and somebody making a statement saying that the investigators cannot walk into, that impression is fair and correct, and I would like to believe that that's true so far as the larger banking institution, the manner in which it's functioning is concerned. Now coming here, I think particularly to a case of ICICI, I don't think it is a straightforward case where CBI is into any kind of adventure. I would like to believe that when the first PE was filed, at that stage they collected certain evidences, and in 10 years they came to a stage where they registered FIR, and I would like to believe that they have evidences which are pointing towards a criminality of some sort. And as I mentioned earlier, I think for criminality, the violation of Companies Act may not be relevant, although there can be a prosecution from the Companies Act point of view or the RBI Act point of view, because those can be various types of violations being done by anybody in the system in terms of not complying with the filings, declaration, disclosures. So far as the criminality is concerned, I think we need to go a little step ahead to say that there is a loss to ICICI and gain to any third party, looking at the provisions which have been invoked in the FIR. Now, coming to the members of the credit committee, I think this is required to be investigated whether their role is confining to any kind of violations which is coming from the Companies Act or from the any other regulatory regime, or their act or conduct or even their silence is resulting into any kind of a criminality.
Right.
Therefore,
Right.
this is a matter of investigation which is to be
Okay.
carried out.
Okay.
But I can say for sure that the members of credit
Right.
committee
But
will not be
saying
absolved straight
I would
away.
have to. Oh yes, I don't think they should be absolved straight away because I think they were a part of the decision making, and why should Chanda Kochhar go down falling alone all by herself? But if Anil Singhvi is there, I'll let him have a quick last word on this show. And Anil, you know, Chanda Kochhar is not somebody who skyrocketed into this. She's worked at the bank for 34 years, and which is why it's a rather hard-hitting statement that has come. She's making an emotional appeal of sorts, but it's a hard-hitting statement that quotes her and says that she reiterates that none of the decisions were unilateral. Do you see this as a prolonged battle that Chanda Kochhar is ready and willing to fight?
Very clearly 2 points. I'm sure Chanda will fight this, because this same board saying that on looking at all the facts, the board has come to the conclusion that there is no question of any quid pro quo, nepotism or conflict of interest as being alleged in various rumors. This was a statement made by the board in March of 2018. Now, same board today is saying that it's not a resignation, we terminate, we claw back all her bonuses and all that. I think what was the board smoking then or smoking now? I have a problem on that. Chanda will definitely fight her tough. She's entitled to do that. Unless it is proved out by the court, I don't think we should be getting carried away by this board, and particularly the reports, whether it was M.K. Sharma, Cyril Shroff, or now Srikrishna. So there are reports and reports and reports, and there are versions and versions and versions, whether she disclosed or she did not disclose. I think we'll have to wait and watch until this matter goes to the court, because I think enough has been said by this board. And according to me, the last point which I want to make
Right.
is the chairman of the audit committee, who was then the chairman and continues to be chairman today, chairman of the audit committee should on moral
Continues to be the
grounds
chairman.
quit today, because he has no role and locus to continue to be the chair of the audit committee.
Okay, thanks very much. I think we are completely out of time here. But I think it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation. When CBI lodged that FIR, Justice Srikrishna could not have given her a clean sheet. This is an exoneration. But whatever you may say, this is a dark, dull day as far as Indian industry is concerned. She was one of the shining beacons, and to see this happen to someone as, you know, as powerful as she once was, Chanda Kochhar, it is indeed very, very disheartening. But on that note, the Srikrishna committee finds her in violation of the code of conduct. It also finds that she failed in her fiduciary duty. Her separation will be termed as termination, unpaid benefits to be clawed back. But if you see the last statement that came in from Chanda Kochhar, it's a hard-hitting statement, and I don't see this battle wrap up anytime soon. We'll take a quick breather. We come back and put the spotlight on the big exercise, the union budget. We will be in conversation with some of the top economists of this country. Sajid Chinoy and Sabiran Chakraborty of Citi join us right here.